Welcome into the Cleveland Browns Report. We've got a lot of ground to cover on today's show. But first, help us out here at the channel. If you haven't subscribed yet, let's get to 11,000 subscribers before week 1, right? Before the Browns pour it on Baker and the Panthers. So join me for that celebration by hitting that subscribe button. Welcome in, guys. We've got a jam-packed show for you today. And just before we started filming today's show, Donovan Mitchell was traded to the Cleveland Cavaliers. City of Champions, right? I mean, producer Patrick and I were chatting. This stuff is contagious, right? Just Tom Brady going down to Tampa Bay. You're seeing the Rays come that close to a World Series. The Lightning win their first Stanley Cup in nearly 2 decades. Hopefully this can, seep through the city streets of Cleveland and all the way to Berea and First Energy Stadium. But we're going to get through a lot of big stuff here on today's show. But first, I want to look at the latest practice squad updates for the Cleveland Browns. So, quarterback Josh Rosen and Isaiah Rochelle most recently added to the Browns practice squad. Some other names that were added yesterday: John Kelly. Great to see Mike Harley Jr. back on there. Dalen Baldwin, Zaire Mitchell-Payton, Miller Forrestall. That was an excellent snag for the practice squad. Little surprised he was not claimed off the waiver wire. Brock Hoffman for some stability at that center interior offensive line position. Alex Taylor, Roderick Perry, David Moore. And then 4 more guys here. The list is a complete 16. Don't have the last 2 names just yet. Teams can be a little bit fluid and slow with this process as they want to see who's still on the market. But Isaiah Rochelle, I'm a little surprised to see this because he was very upset, deservingly so, after the Browns cut him to make room for Kellen Mond. But he had some interest elsewhere. I guess it never came to fruition because he signs with the Browns practice squad. He's probably the best player on this practice squad, in my opinion. I mean, one, he's the only guy in the practice squad that made the Browns' 53-man initial roster. So the moment there's an injury, not even on the Browns, but on any team at defensive end, teams are not just going to look internally. They will look league-wide. They have people whose jobs it is to examine and study other teams in the NFL, and they can report back with, oh, you need a defensive end? It's kind of a mystery this Rochelle guy is on the Browns practice squad. We should bring him over. Now, I think I already answered the question for myself, but I'll let you guys chime in here. Who is your favorite player on the practice squad, right? Who is the guy that you thought was an awesome pickup for the Browns? To keep him on the team was a steal. Let me know down in the comment section below. Now, we've got some more news and rumors to get to today, but we're going to use our Bernie heads here on the show. We've used it before. It's a classic, and it never fails. So the way this works, if we give a story 0 Bernie heads, it's fake news. Don't believe a word. 4 Bernie heads, believe one. Like, for example, Donovan Mitchell, trade rumors to the Cavs. 4 Bernie heads, believe one, because it happened. All right, so the first story. Are the Browns interested in Ndamukong Suh? I'm giving this 1 Bernie head, okay? Now, there is some good news here because 1 Bernie head's not very good. Are the Browns looking at defensive tackles on the other hand? This story I'm going to give 3 Bernie heads. The Browns are reportedly interested in looking to beef up their interior defensive line. It just might not be with number 93 in Ndamukong Suh. So the rumor/story originally stems from Brad Stainbrook over at the Orange and Brown Report and ESPN Cleveland as well. Now, congrats on that accomplishment. Source: Browns have expressed interest in defensive tackles around the NFL. I love how this next part was, he knew people were going to be asking, so he just got ahead of it. On Ndamukong Suh. Nothing happening with Suh as of now. I'm told while there's interest from Suh, that's it. Suh will continue to check in with Cleveland as they continue to search the market. This is sort of like a guy who needs a date for prom, and he keeps asking the hot girl, like, do you need a date? She's like, no, I'm going to keep my options open. So the Browns, it doesn't seem like they want to go the veteran route at defensive tackle. Now, here's the issue. If they want to go to free agency, the biggest names are not very far off from Ndamukong Suh in age, right? Sheldon Richardson's 4 years younger, and so if that's really what the driving force is, yeah, I could see a reunion between Richardson and the Browns. Now, another reunion that's possible, what about Danny Shelton? He was just cut by the Chiefs not long ago. Maybe bring back one of those two guys who is familiar with the Browns. Linval Joseph, Star Lutulelli, I think I pronounced that correct. I think I nailed it. But those are 5 free agent defensive tackles that if you're curious who's out in the market, those are my top 5 guys right now. But who do you want the Browns to sign? Whether it's one of those 5 players, or you could open this up to another position. I just want you to know who you are looking at here. Because when we look at this Browns defensive line depth chart, it hasn't changed. The only thing that's changed is just how they have performed in the preseason. And it's been a little bit up and down. I thought Jordan Elliott and Taven Bryan had a great game against the Jags. Jordan Elliott, for example, that QB hurry he had against Trevor Lawrence, I think Elliott looks like the number 1 defensive tackle on this roster. My concern is just the depth. Because career-wise here, you don't have a lot of proven track record outside of Taven Bryan and Jordan Elliott. Tommy Togiai, entering his 2nd season, only played 6 games last year for the Browns. Perrion Winfrey's a rookie who, let's call it how it is, didn't have a good preseason, right? At least for the wildly inaccurate expectations we held him to for a 4th-round pick, he looked like a 4th-round pick. And that's fine. That's not a reason to panic. But the Browns might decide, you know what? We wanted to see how this crew and group could work together through 3 preseason games. And if they didn't reach our standard, right? They didn't reach our threshold, then we would go look to free agency. So we've got more rumors to get to in just a second, but our sportsbook partner, BetUS, is back for another season, and they are back with the best deal out there. Not only will they give you a deposit bonus, but they're going to match it and then add an additional 25% on. So you put $100 in, boom, you've got 125% added on top of it, which means you got $225 to go bet on the Browns +3. Head on over to chatsports.com/bet. Promo code Browns125. Listen, the fact that the Browns went from -3 to +3, I don't get. Nothing really changed with either of these 2 rosters. Now, I understand that Baker is going to be highly motivated, but I think Myles Garrett and Denzel Ward are going to be equally motivated. So I'm going to take Cleveland +3. Scratch that. Cleveland money line +155. You know what I call that? Free money. Get it over at chatsports.com/bet. Promo code Browns125. So for our next rumor story on today's show, we're going to have a little fun with this one. Is this Lamar Jackson's last year in Baltimore? I'm going to give it 2 Bernie heads. Kind of in the middle. Now, Twitter's a dangerous place for getting got, or for misreading stuff, or diving in too deep here. But I do think there is something to some of the interesting things that have been said. Let me backtrack. So Russell Wilson this morning got a 5-year, $245 million contract extension. What does that have to do with Lamar Jackson? Well, I'll tell you what it has to do with Lamar Jackson. The NFL is just a one-upping league. Lamar Jackson now will want to be paid higher. He's going to want to be above Russell Wilson on this list of highest paid quarterbacks per year on average. He's going to want to be number 1. And so by the Ravens dragging their feet and waiting, what does that do? Cost them more money. That's what it came down to. And now the other day on Twitter, this is where the story goes full circle, right? It's like Star Wars. Now we're going to go back to the beginning here. Lamar Jackson liked this tweet of him in a Dolphins jersey. Lamar's entering the last year of his contract, and he said, we're not negotiating after week 1 here. Week 1 is in a week and change, guys, 10 days away. I'm not all that optimistic that a deal will get done in the next 10 days. And now let's take a deeper dive, more than just liking a tweet. Because sometimes you accidentally like tweets, that happens. But what about when someone asks point blank, I heard they offered you that $250 million guaranteed. Lamar's response, no, they didn't. Ooh. Well, that's interesting. Because actually, let's go back to that player 5 rank of the top 5 highest paid quarterbacks, Patrick. So they didn't offer him $250 million. Well, now, $49 million, which is a hair below it, is second with Russell Wilson. Sounds to me like if he wants to be the highest paid QB, he's going to need $250 million. And it doesn't sound like the Ravens are going to do that. One side will have to fold. I don't see a reason why Lamar would fold. What does he have to lose? Just wait till he's a free agent. If Tua doesn't work out for the Dolphins this year, they'll give him the bag. And if it's not Tua, let's say Tua's good for Miami this year. You're telling me the New York Giants are going to stick with Daniel Jones over Lamar Jackson? No. I think it's one way or another. 5-year, $250 million, or he walks. So the Ravens can be a bit of a, I don't know, keep their pockets closed franchise at times. Do you guys think they will give Lamar Jackson the bag? Y for yes or N for no? I've actually talked myself out of my already pre-scripted idea, which was I think the Ravens get it done, but if Baltimore didn't want to do it at $250 million, it's going to keep going up, right? I think Baltimore, when it's all said and done, I think they will somehow strike a deal with Lamar, but this price is skyrocketing. It's just going to keep going up. The longer the Ravens drag their feet and negotiate with Lamar Jackson, the more expensive this contract is going to be. He's just going to ask to be the highest paid QB. If they did this after Deshaun Watson got a contract, that would have been $235 million. But since then, 2 QBs have gotten paid more. First Kyler Murray, and now Russell Wilson. The longer the Charm City waits, the more expensive this is. But which team in the AFC North do you hate the most? The Ravens, the Bungles, or the Steelers? You guys know F-Pit is a staple of the channel, but I've had people say, you know what? Let's not forget about the Ravens and the Crows. So let me know which team you cannot stand the most. To wrap up today's show, I just want to look at this quick injury report from practice today on Thursday, September 1st. Wyatt Teller, who suffered a knee injury in week 3 of the preseason, he returned to practice. That was great to see. Myles Garrett was excused with personal reasons. He's unfortunately had some personal issues going on recently. I hope everything is okay in 95's life. Thinking of him right now. Perrion Winfrey, he was excused from practice today with an illness. Jadeveon Clowney, he had a hand injury in that joint practice with the Eagles. That's just been lingering, so the Browns are taking it cautious, and they're resting him 10 days before week 1. A.J. Green and Ronnie Harrison sidelined today, working out individually as they recover from their respective injuries. So that is the injury report today, and that's going to do it for us on today's show. I really appreciate everyone that tuned in, and we've got some more Browns coverage coming your way.